Hello, my true crime lovelies. All right, you read the title. I have some Sarah Boone updates. And then I ran into a random rabbit hole that's going to have to be its own video. So I don't know why my shoulder is. Oh, so my shoulder is disappearing. Just show you Zaddy Kranik. Let's just get right into it because it's saucy. Don't get saucy with me, Bernays. Okay. The way they scanned it, some of these pages are not the same size. So I'm going to do my best to not have to keep adjusting. Ah, here we go. Sarah Boone. They did not lower the price, but they did not send me a color photo. So I don't know what's happening over there, Lowell Annex. We've got her visitors, related visitors. What I wanted to do was drill down into the addresses of the visitors. I actually wanted their application. They didn't give me their applications, but I got their addresses. I got their phone numbers, which helped me also to confirm on the phone log. But so obviously you don't need her son's address, but these are info only for visitor status. So they were not approved. Lana, who is no longer here, will not be visiting her, at least not in the physical form. What she does in the spiritual world is none of my business. So they have it's info only. They haven't been approved to visit is basically what that is. Then we get into Julian Delapine. So he's got a Westbrook, Connecticut address. He's listed as a personal friend, so not a business friend, even though all of their conversations are about business. And Nicole comes back with an Australian address, which surprised me, but no phone number. Luckily, in a chat, she confirmed her phone number for me, so I know I have the right one when we get to that. But it surprised me. I'm going to be honest. It surprised me. Peter comes back with the North Salem, New York address and a 914. We already had his phone number from a previous lookup on Been Verified. Brenda and David LaFontaine are the couple that took Sarah's dogs. They were approved for visitation. And you'll see here Peter is approved. So I have that documentation because the last time we checked in, he had been denied. Now it's been corrected. Her mother and father are on there, deceased. Her brother is on there. He's been approved for visitation to her. Redacted by the prison was their SSN. We don't need that information. And so whoever put this together scanned it all, which is how I got the black and white photo. Scanned all of the documents where previously I would get like a separate one for visitation, a separate one for phone calls. So that's why the size is a little wonky. So here we have on 421, Peter J. Gunthel, and it's spelled wrong, has had visitation privileges denied. The reason was fraudulent info/application. That was the only, but then like we saw before, it's approved now. So on 6/2 last week, he was approved. They've gotten the name spelled correctly. I don't know if he's come to visit. I actually didn't ask for who came to visit. I only asked for the visitation application. So if we do this again next month, I'll ask and I'll go back to May, June, and then include July, obviously, to see if someone visited. Or I'm sorry, April, May, and June, not July, because I'll be requesting in July. So then we're going to go right into the phone calls. And there are lots because we hadn't seen since April. It goes in reverse. I've highlighted in yellow. Well, I made a yellow box of the period of when Lana passed, when I made the announcement, and when all of her flying monkeys went crazy, just so we can see that activity. But you can see, so this goes through 6/9. I just got this week. Today is Friday the 13th when I'm recording this. She's talking to her son, 9 minutes on the 9th, 9 minutes, 54 seconds. She talked to Peter. So they're still in communication on the 9th for 30 minutes. She called her son also on the 9th. She got 0 minutes twice. John Castlewicks is a new character. I couldn't find anything on him. He does not have a Facebook profile, but they talked for 25 minutes and 37 seconds on the 9th. And they also talked for 4 minutes and 34 seconds on the 9th. She talked to her, she called her son twice, nothing. She called John twice on the 8th. We're on the 8th now, nothing. She gets a hit with John on the 5th, and they talk for 30 minutes exactly. She calls Peter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times on the 4th with nothing fruitful. He doesn't answer. And then on the 4th at 9:22 that morning, and these are in reverse. So she actually talked to him at 9 o'clock in the morning for 10 minutes and 31 seconds. She had called him prior to that the night before at 7:03, nothing. She talked to her son on the 3rd of June for almost 30 minutes. And then she had called him prior to that, called Peter prior to that twice, and nothing. She talked to John on the 3rd for 19 minutes. Sugar Bear's having a good time. He got new trucks. He got a monster truck and 2 race cars. So he's over there having a ball. John on the 3rd for 4 minutes. Then she tried Peter on the 3rd, 1, 2, 3 times with nothing. Her son on the 3rd with nothing. Calling him at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if the kids are out of school. The 3rd would have been a Tuesday. Why would he be home and awake? I was the kind of kid, if I could sleep in, I slept in on summer break. But she was calling him at 9 o'clock in the morning. She also called Peter 8:59, 8:57, 8:55 on the 3rd. Then the night before, I think that's 11. Oh, no, it's not 11. What is that, 9? He didn't answer. She called him at 9:02, right? Because 22 would be 10. Yeah. So 9:02, 9:04, nothing. 7:49, nothing. 7:48. 7:46. So she's just blowing him up. Remember when she used to say, Brian is always blowing me up? Well, girl, what about you? It's okay for you to blow people? So, yeah, she didn't get a hold of him on the 2nd. She called her son the night of the 2nd, one time, and then she's calling Peter another 1, 2, 3, 4 times with nothing. She called Brian on the 2nd at 5:31, nothing. Son at 5:30, nothing. I wonder if she's testing out to see if he answers the phone, like if he doesn't have a job, why isn't he home type energy. I wouldn't put it past her. So the 2nd she's calling Brian, son, Brian, voice over internet protocol twice, Brian with nothing. On the 1st, she called Peter at 6:01. They talked for nearly 30 minutes. Then she called her son on the 1st multiple times, voice over internet protocol, whoever that was, 29 minutes and 51 seconds. I did go back and look. I think either the VoIP or the no ID is Christina, because otherwise she doesn't appear. Previously, she had a number that had an area code of 689. It doesn't show up. And for sure, I remember pulling, like when I went into bin verified, I put her name in and it came up, and she has a reference to a dancer in her email, and she responded to my email when I sent her an email. So for sure that was her, and it's been wiped. So it's basically like, remember back in the day, you would have like 401, you could have your number unlisted. It's like that equivalent in the digital age. Like she's gone in, but I think she's gotten a different number because now the area code is 407. Anyway, okay, so it's one of those. But she talked to whoever that was on the VoIP for almost 30 minutes. She talked to Peter May 31st for 7 minutes. And then she called him 1, 2, 3, 4 3 times with nothing. And then one of the times she talked to him for 3 minutes. Do they charge you like while they're connecting, while you have to listen to the message about you're being recorded, you agree to it? Is that considered like part of the connection? Because the other person has to be on to also hear the recording, right? I don't know. Okay. Son didn't answer the phone on the 31st. Peter at 12:58 on the 31st did not answer. Son at 9:54 did not answer. On the 30th, she talked to her son for 30 minutes. If I have time, I'll go back and do one of like how many days in a row, or how many days out of May. Somebody's on motorcycles out there. She talked to her son, and for how long? Because she's still claiming in the recent filings of 529 and 530 on her family court that she's being denied access to him. Maybe she means physical visitation, which the judge has addressed that even though there was no outstanding motion. But she makes it like she doesn't get to talk to him at all. Like, ma'am, he's not in a cell. He's a 14-year-old. He doesn't have time to sit on. I'm like, what are you talking about with him? What do you bring to the table? Because you are not the table, Sarah Boone. I'm not going to go through those. So, son, she talked to him on the 30th for 3 minutes, and she's got the VoIP. Son, she talked to him. I have a question mark there. I'm just like, I know for sure that's his number, but I just, out of an abundance of caution, because nobody needs to be calling him. 2:31, or no, not 2:31, 14 minutes and 31 seconds at 7:14. So she catches him in the evening. Then also at 5:34 on the 28th, she talked to Peter for 30 minutes, 29:31. And then prior to that, at 3:23, she talked to Peter for 25 minutes and 21 seconds, also on the 28th. She's got a bunch of VoIP calls here, some as long as 30 minutes. Then she calls Brian on the 28th. He doesn't answer. She calls him twice, once at 9:59 in the morning and then at 10:24, actually 3 times, 9:57, 9:59, 10:24. He does not answer. The VoIP number ending in 6 is 18 minutes. She talks to her son on the 27th for 28 minutes. So I wonder if whatever she talked to her son about on the 27th, is that why she started blowing Brian up the next morning at 9:59? So, because she seems to think like in order to parent, even though whatever that means to her, she still has to stay in communication with Brian. It'll be interesting what the parenting plan comes out with, because I don't think it's reasonable to expect that Brian partner with her on raising the son. Like, if her opinion matters, like, oh, he should be doing this, or where did he go to the dentist? Some of that weird stuff we saw in the early messages. Because she really has no reason to be talking to Brian. Is it just me? Or is it like, what are they talking about? I don't think they talked about parenting or co-parenting when she was out and sober. Now she's even less credible as a parent, in my opinion. Okay, on the 26th of May, she talked to her son for 24 minutes. She also talked to him for 15 minutes on the 26th of May. Then she's got these VoIP calls. Nearly 30 minutes. One of them is 4:48 or 4 minutes and 48 seconds. Brian does not answer her on the 26th. Brian does not answer her at 9:35 on the 26th or 9:37. She calls her son at 9:34. He does not answer on the 26th. She calls Brian on the 25th at 7:14, 7:12, 7:11. He does not answer. Son does not answer on the 25th at 7:10. So she does 7:10 to the son, 7:11 to the son, 7:12 to Brian, 7:14 to Brian. And then in the morning, she starts again with the son, 9:34, then Brian, 9:35, 9:37. Like, that is crazy. Hopefully Brian's attorney pulls these from the prison so they can show this pattern. I guess Brian could show his phone bill of missed calls, because that's crazy. So yeah, she doesn't talk to Brian or her son despite multiple calls. You could see on the side, all of those are calls to either Brian or her son. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all on the 25th. They do not answer a single one. Same for the VoIP that ends in 6. Then she also has called her son a couple times on the 24th. 1429, 1431. Like, why would you call back to back? Leave a message, ma'am. Also on the 24th, she'd called Brian. Oh, and he did answer. At 1:36, they spoke for 8 minutes and 45 seconds. That was shortly after she hung up, because she called her son at 11:07 and they talked for nearly 30 minutes, so 11:37. And then it's about 2 hours, because it was 1:36 that she called Brian. Good Lord. Okay, a bunch of missed VoIPs. She started calling a woman named Beth C. Jensen, who is on Facebook, lives in Florida, doesn't have a lot of information, but she called her. Beth did not answer. She's got this VoIP ending in 6 for 30 minutes. So that's why I feel like it is Christina. It's not like super frequent, but it's frequent enough. But who knows? It could be anyone. So Peter, she talks to on the 18th for 30 minutes. So at this point, this is nearer to when Lana died. She died on the 10th. Peter, she also talks on the 18th for 30 minutes. Remember, she filed a paper in the court, or she turned it into the prison on the 19th. So they could be talking in preparation for this. She had some handwritten things, and then Peter and Nicole ostensibly typed them up. I say that because in the previous ones that were typed up, Peter included his email for Brian's attorney to call him, which he cannot do because he only can talk to the party that's involved in the lawsuit. And he was probably like, who is this Peter dude? You know what I mean? Even though in her letters to the judge, she's like, my representative reached out to him. And what about it, ma'am? So she's talking to him back to back, 29 minutes, 29 minutes, 29 minutes, all on the 18th. An hour and a half of Sarah. Fun, fun, fun. Oh, and then a little straggler 3 minutes with Peter and Sarah. On the 18th, she also called him at, 3:41. He doesn't answer. She talks to her son for 21 minutes on the 17th. David LaFontaine, who was the one who, half of the couple that took her dogs, she talked to him for 54 seconds. He was like, okay, girl, good to hear from you. Okay, take care. No, I can't send you any money. Uh-oh, what's that? Our connection is breaking up. Bye-bye. So, called son on the 17th, nada. Talked to Peter on the 16th for 28 minutes. On the 15th for 12 minutes. Also on the 15th for 12 minutes. Brian, she called on the 15th. He didn't answer. Son didn't answer. Brian didn't answer. You can see it all there. We get down to the 15th. She talks to Peter for 30 minutes. There was also something she filed on the 15th in family court. Then she gets ghosted by Peter for 4 calls on the 15th, from starting at 5:59. Then 6:01, 6:02, 6:04. Whew, Lord, she will work somebody's nerves. She did talk to him at 2:21 for 30 minutes. She called him at 1:34. He did not answer. At 1:33, he did not answer. She called Brian at 1:31. He did not answer. Called Peter at 1:29. He did not answer. The VoIP that ends in 6, she called and talked to them for 21 minutes, 54 seconds. Then we've got on the 14th, good Lord, she's got a lot to Peter. So 8:59, 8:53, 8:51, no answer. 8:57, he talked to her for 2 minutes. Sorry, not 8. That would have been 6:57. So it went from 6:57 to 8:51. Also 6:18, she called him, nothing. 6:15, she called him, nothing. 3:26, he answered. She got 26 minutes and 24 seconds with him. On the 14th, she called him at 1:34, 12:58, 12:56, 12:55. He did not answer. VoIP calls on the 14th, and she's got Peter again on the 13th. What is that? 6:31 and 6:33. He did not answer. She called her son on the 13th at 5:07. He did answer. They talked for 2 minutes and 33 seconds. He was like, Mom, I'm busy. What do you need? Should I send you a book? Imagine. On the 13th at 2:31, she called Peter. They talked for 39 seconds. Probably left him a voicemail. Can they do that? Because the voicemail can't consent. Well, I guess the voicemail doesn't need to consent because by definition, it's going to record a call. This is the no ID with the 407 that ends in an 8, not to be confused with the VoIP with the 407 that ends in a 6. So this is a different person. They did not answer. 13th, she called Brian at 2:25. She called Brian at 2:23. Brian did not answer. She called Peter at 2:21. He did not answer. She called Brian at 11:37. He did not answer. She called her son at 6:32 on the 12th. We're on the 12th now. He did answer. They talked for 18 minutes and 46 seconds. And she also talked to Peter on the 12th at 2:38 for 29 minutes and 48 seconds. They were busy. VoIP ending in 6, which I think is Christina, 15 minutes, 4 minutes. Brian, she calls on the 12th twice at 9:33 in the morning and 9:35. Liberty. And talks for 0 seconds. Didn't answer. Okay, you know what? I just remembered. Liberty, thank you for that. I didn't run the intro. Watch your ears, guys. I'm going to run the intro. Hold on to your ears or adjust your bass. All right, there are dogs and a toddler in the house. If you're new here, noises will ensue. Okay, so didn't talk to him on the 12th. I've circled this because this is the day after Lana died, just as memorialize that activity. So Sarah's activity, not Sarah's activity around Lana's death is what I'm trying to say. So she calls her son on the 11th, which is Mother's Day, and that is 29:48, 30 minutes. And then she calls her son at 6:01. So when did he pick up? 6:02. She called him back a minute later. Then you've got the VoIP, 14 minutes, then son on the 11th for 24 minutes. Maybe he was feeling sad for her because it was Mother's Day. Then you have, oh gosh, she blew him up on Mother's Day. She started at 3:08, then 3:32, then 3:33, then 3:34. He finally picks up and she gets him for 24 minutes. And then she calls him at 6 that same day. Oh no, she doesn't get him there. Where did I see that? What am I saying? Oh, at 6:02. So 6:01 she calls, he doesn't answer. 6:02 she gets him for 30 minutes. So maybe it was a little Mother's Day guilt she was issuing out. Please hold. You guys, how come you didn't tell me that was so tiny? I just sat down and I'm like, can they even see that? Hopefully you can. I'll make it a little larger since you can't see notes and make myself a little smaller. You're not going to be able to see the top. Well, you'll see it as it scrolls up. Okay. So a bunch of VoIP calls. One's for 30 minutes. She also talks to her son on the 10th at 12:50. I don't think... When did I make my video? Like at 11? I think I found out at 11. Maybe I made my video at 4. So she wouldn't know at that point. The monkeys would not have known, so they couldn't have told her. Yeah, talks to her son on the 10th, so the day before Mother's Day, for 30 minutes. Calls Brian at 12:48. He doesn't answer. She calls his son at 12:50 and talks to him for 30 minutes. And it looks like she's just looking for someone to talk to, because she's got 12:46, she calls Peter. 12:48, she calls the VoIP. Nothing. Brian, 12:48. Nothing. 12:50, she calls her son and he answers. 30 minutes. So they get off at, what is that, like 1:20? And then she doesn't call anybody again until 3:23. So 10:57 in the morning, she calls the VoIP. 10:55, she calls David LaFontaine. Good Lord. 2:55, 2:57, she calls Brian. Nothing. Calls her son on the 8th and talks at 6:38, talks to him for 30 minutes, 28:40. And then also on the 8th, she calls at, what is that, 5:55 and talks to him for 33 seconds, maybe voicemail. But you see what I mean? She talks to him at least once a week, maybe twice a week, which seems like plenty for a 14-year-old to be talking to somebody in prison. Because again, what could she be talking about? Like her job as a houseman, her getting in trouble for lying, or is she just like peppering him with questions, right? So she calls Brian on the 8th, nothing. Son on the 8th, nothing. Who I believe is Christina. On the 7th, they talk for 3 minutes. She talks to her son on the 7th. She calls him at 6:39. It's a weekday because that was my birthday. She talks to him for 27 minutes. And then she also talks to him at 5:35 for 25 minutes. And at 8:34 in the morning for 18 minutes. What are they talking about? But he's answering, he's willing. I'll back off. The Christina number for 29 minutes, 57 seconds. Calls her son on the 5th at 8:31, 8:33, nothing. 7:21, she talks to her son on the 5th for 30 minutes. I don't know why she's calling him back to back after they, like an hour later. So half an hour after they hung up, she's calling him again. Or is that half an hour? It's either half an hour or 20 minutes. 18:45, so 6:45, she calls her son, nothing. 6:43, nothing. 14:21, 2:21, she's calling Peter on the 5th. He doesn't answer. She calls Nicole. Nicole is the 401 number. That's the Rhode Island number. 9:53 in the morning, she calls her. Nothing. I'm guessing Nicole doesn't have a job. Or no, wait. That might have been a Sunday, to be fair. Nicole, she also calls on the 5th at 9:52. It's interesting she didn't call Nicole on Mother's Day. Nicole is a mother. What's up with that? She calls her son on the 5th, 3:04. Or they talk for 3 minutes. She calls him at 8:57 in the morning. Good Lord. Brian is not answering. There's a bunch of no calls or no answers, right? She's got Peter, Brian, son, Peter. All of these are 0 duration. She gets a hit with Peter on the 4th at 2:48. They talk for 22 minutes. She also gets him on the 4th at 1:47. They talk for nearly 30 minutes. Son on the 3rd, she talks to him for nearly 30 minutes at 6:14. Also at 4:48, she talks to him for 30 minutes. Wow. At 2:17, she talks to him for 30 minutes. So an hour and a half on the 3rd, she talks to her son on the phone. Brian does not answer when she calls at 2:02. Peter does not answer when she calls at 2:01. So she's looking for someone to talk to. 2:01, 2:02, 2:17. I'm going to call till somebody answers. Lots of no answers here. Peter answers on the 2nd at 2:22, talks to her for 6 minutes. This is leading up to that weekend where things are due in the family court. Because things were due on the 5th, which I think the 5th, was it a Monday? No. I think, is that right? Because I think my birthday was on a Tuesday. That's how I'm keeping it straight. Let me see. May 2nd was a Friday. So, and I think there was something due or there was something filed. There was something due for sure on the 5th, but I feel like there was some other like not required frivolous demand of when she's like asking for the interrogatories or whatever with Brian. So perhaps they're talking about that. Then she's got Nicole doesn't answer at 9:58 in the morning. This is not the Christina number because hers ends in a 6. I don't know who this is. Put in your guesses in the comments. Who do you think the other person is? Like, who would she be talking to frequently? So she calls Nicole the 2nd. She calls Peter the 2nd. Nothing. Son. Nothing. Son. Son on the 1st. She talks to Brian on the 1st for 5 minutes. She talks to Nicole on the 1st for 30 minutes at 9:58 in the morning. She starts calling Brian at 9 on the 1st. That's a Thursday with nothing, especially with pending litigation. I would be like, girl, stop calling me. She should call his attorney. He's represented. They really shouldn't have anything in real time to talk about. Like I said, her opinion on child rearing is moot as far as I'm concerned. Girl, you are a convicted murderer. You can't run your own life. How you gonna run somebody else's? On the 29th of April, she talks to her son for 30 minutes. On the 29th, she also talks to him for 5 minutes. So at 6:24 she called, and then 7:03 she called. Oh, but she also called Brian at 6:22. She also called her son at 6:20. Then Brian at 5:22. We're in reverse. 5:20 she called her son. On the 29th. Wow. So she had a break in there because she was calling Peter the last time was at 1:59, and then she didn't start calling again until 5:20. Nicole, she talked to her for 30 minutes on the 29th. Excuse me, also talked to her for 8 minutes on the 29th. 28th, she talked to Peter for 30 minutes, nearly 30 minutes. But she called him. Let's see, when did she start calling him? 2:01. Talked to him for 20 minutes. 3:43, he did not answer. 5:50, she talked to him for 30 minutes. 7:17, he did not answer. 7:19, he answered and they talked for 30 minutes, all on the 28th. Then we've got, so she misdialed Nicole here. I put that. It's this, all the numbers are the same except she put 407 instead of 401. Do they still make that cleaner, 401? So yeah, that whoever that was did not answer. Yeah. Which is weird because it says she called this person at 9:18 and it was for, oh no, that's the real Nicole, for 4 minutes and 33. Then she misdialed, but also at 9:18. Maybe they just got it out of order. Succession, you know. Okay, so then 4:22 on the 27th, she talked to her son for 4 minutes. Then she, on the 27th, 9:46 in the morning, she called Nicole. The 26th, 1:04, she talked to her son for 30 minutes. 10:34 that morning of the 26th, she talked to him for 30 minutes. On the 25th, it was connected for 1 second. I doubt that she talked to him. On the 25th, she called Peter. He didn't answer. Called him on the 25th at 6:02. He didn't answer. And then we have 3:43. She talked to her son 3 minutes and 45 seconds. 7 seconds on the 25th. She talked to Nicole for 30 minutes on the 25th for 9 minutes, 42 seconds. She talked to, oh wait, I'm not looking at that right. At 9:42 in the morning, she talked to Nicole for 30 minutes. Sorry, guys. Peter, she called at 5:25 on the 24th, talked for 2 minutes and 42 seconds. She also had called him at 5:23. He did not answer. He probably knew, like, I got to answer. She's going to blow me up. Like, people aren't busy. There's a reason why they're not answering. It's not because they didn't catch the phone. They're not trying to talk to you. There was another misdialed Nicole hidden in the 407. And then her son, she talked to him on the 23rd. 5:58, she talked to him for nearly 30 minutes. And then Nicole, she talked to for 26 minutes on the 22nd. And that is it. This one was longer because I hadn't asked for it since April because I'm trying to quit her, but you guys are encouraging me. We just have to say no and keep coming back. So yeah, that is that for little Miss Sarah and all her shenanigans and lol. I didn't order or I didn't ask for her commissary. I'm sure she's still eating junk. We can just imagine. Um, why is this? There we go. Hello, Shoulder. Um, Let me know what you guys think. Are you surprised that Nicole actually has an Australian address? And then why isn't her phone number required to be on there? I wanted to see the full application because you know how Sarah filed in the family court, like the reason Brian hasn't filled this out is because he'd have to be able to put his employment, but he wouldn't be able to, or he'd have to lie. And I'm like, well, what about if people don't have jobs? Like Lana didn't have a job. What did she put on there? Do you know what I mean? But they didn't send me that, probably because it's none of my business. But is any of this, and has that ever stopped me? Yeah. All right. So also I posted that I was working on this and Lauren LWLW was like, let's do a deep dive on Peter. Like, and so I did. That is going to be another video because that's a whole other rabbit hole, but there's a fly in the buttermilk, y'all. They took their website. They didn't take it completely down, but they stripped the menu down to 2 pages, but they didn't completely remove it because then I went over to the Wayback Machine. I'll tell you in the other video. It'll be up after this one, I promise. Let me know your thoughts on Peter finally getting approved and Nicole actually being in Australia, or at least having an Australia address, but a Rhode Island phone number. Like maybe she submitted her passport for ID. Help me make it make sense, guys. I'm a little like, it could be this, could be that. Let me know your thoughts. I will talk to you in the comments. I will talk to you in the chat. I will talk to you later. Toodles.